Okay, so you're going to tell me that every crew member on this fishing vessel or this ship is all women? Okay, listen, at least let's make the movie realistic. Okay, whoa, hang on a sec. Now, before every female subscriber clicks off here and hits the dislike button, that was a joke, but let me just tell you what I was getting at here as far as being realistic, okay? If you go to any movie ever in the history of movies when there's a ship, okay, like a giant boat, like a fishing vessel or an oil freighter, anything large, seaworthy that has crew on it, okay? There is always old, haggard, salty-assed fucking seamen on the ships. Cranky, bearded, weathered, okay? I'm telling you right now, the crew of this ship, it was almost like Victoria's Secrets started producing horror movies. I'm telling you, everyone that is a part of this crew is smoking hot. And that's what I'm talking about. You know, as much as I enjoy the eye candy, it would have been nice to throw in a couple old hags or something just to make it seem a little more realistic. That's what I was getting at, okay? I mean, this is the best looking fucking crew of sea women I've ever seen in my life. The fuck? Anyways, that aside, tonight we are talking about a movie called Dead in the Water. And unfortunately, 2 seconds into this movie, I realized that the title of this movie is probably going to fucking lead up to the outcome of this movie, which is Dead in the Water. As soon as I see those dreaded fucking, that symbol, SyFy channel, come on the title screen, I was like, oh, god damn it. Duped again. I knew nothing about this movie going into it, other than I had a couple of you guys ask me about it if I'd seen it. I said no. I found it, and I watched it. And I again, as soon as that title screen came up and it said for the SyFy channel, I was like, fuck me. Because, listen, the SyFy channel, you can defend it all you want. 98% of the movies that they produce, their TV movies, are absolute fucking garbage. So I was expecting the worst when I sat down to watch this, looking at my clock, and we were only 20 seconds in. But I gotta tell you, okay, this movie is not without its flaws, that's for sure, but it wasn't near as bad as I thought it was going to be. So basically, it is a crew full of women who have this, I'm not sure what kind of style boat it is. It's a big-ass boat. It could be an old fishing liner. I'm not sure what it is, but what they do is they go around and they, I guess they try and videotape. Kind of like the illegal whaling ships. You know, I don't think they ram people like that, but they videotape their illegal fishing activities and stuff like that. So that's what this crew of women do, is they go around and they try and bring down these illegal fish poachers, if you will. Okay, so anyways, first act, that's the gist of the movie right there. So that's what they do. That's what they're doing. And there's the captain and her sister run the boat, and then there's the crew after or underneath. Okay, so we pick the story up. The first act, they're following this fishing vessel into this giant fog bank. Okay, and they're having problems with the boat to begin with. We pick that up as soon as we start the movie. So they're trying to repair the boat's motor as they're chasing after this boat. Okay. And they want to put a tracking device on it so that they can track to see where it goes, so they can, alert the authorities and they can come and get them, and so on and so forth. So that being said, the boat breaks down, okay, and there's a fog bank coming in, and they're also concerned that if they don't get the boat up and running, there's a huge storm front coming in, and they're afraid with if a rogue wave comes, it'll tip this massive boat over, which is understandable. But in the meantime, while all the confusion of trying to get the boat fixed, they spot a man in the water unconscious, okay, and they go out and they save him, okay, but he's unconscious. They think he's dead, so they bring him back onto the ship, and he wakes up. Okay, they try to revive him. He wakes up, and then he starts stabbing some girls, and he starts freaking out and all this sort of shit. And then, long story short, I don't want to tell you too much about the first act, but they end up killing him. Okay, that's the end of the first act. They end up killing this guy to save themselves, which is totally understandable, because who the fuck wouldn't want to do that? This guy's going bananas, right? He's stabbing people and trying to wreck the ship and all sorts of shit. Act 2 is they kill him, okay, and then there's a doctor on board, or a semi kind of a doctor, and she kind of wants to see what's going on there, because they stab the guy the one time and they think he's dead, and then he's not. And they shoot him in the head, and then they bring him back into this operating table inside the ship in the doctor's quarters. And he's got these holes all through his body, right? So they want to see what the fuck's going on here, if he's infected with something or whatever. So they fillet him open, and they cut out his rib cage, right, and take the plate off. And then we're introduced to this creature. This is a creature feature, if you haven't figured it out already. And it's inside its organs, and it's feeding on this guy, okay? And that's pretty much the second act, is they realize now that this guy didn't want to kill them. He was just trying to crash this ship because he doesn't want this thing inside of him to get to land, right? Because it's going to cause total chaos. And then the third act, well, you can guess what happens, and I don't want to say anything about the third act. Most of the first and second act you can pick up in the trailer. But what I wanted to say about this movie, being a sci-fi movie, again, I had my doubts going into it. But I'm telling you, and I'm not just saying this because it was an all-woman cast, except for the one guy. The acting was fantastic in this movie. It's just a shame that this was a sci-fi movie. So they were probably given a terrible budget to work with, and they had to do the best. I mean, the ship that they filmed on, I don't know where they got it or whatever, but I mean, those shots were fantastic, but the CGI in this movie is fucking terrible. But that just goes along with any sci-fi channel movie, because all the CGI in those are fucking terrible. Most of those movies that, Sci-Fi Channel produces strict for their channel is garbage, okay? When they pick up other movies outside of their channel, you know what I mean, like Shudder does or Netflix, then, I mean, they can be awesome, right? But when Sci-Fi is funding these movies straight for the sci-fi TV, I mean, 98% of the time they're fucking garbage. And unfortunately, this movie suffers from that. The creature in this movie, when we finally do get the reveal, the practical portions of the creature are acceptable. They're cool. They're still low budget, but they're cool. But when they go the CGI route with this creature, it's fucking laughable. Like, I mean, God, honestly, 10-year-old kids on Final Cut Pro could probably make and when they show the outsides of the ships, you know what I mean, in the water, it almost looks like a fucking cartoon. Like, it's that bad. It's pathetic. But what does kind of save this movie, if there's any saving it, is the acting that these ladies do. I mean, they genuinely wanted to be there. It's just unfortunate that the story isn't original, and it's actually quite boring. I mean, this would make a killer short film if it was like 20 minutes to a half an hour long. There's no way this movie should have been 90 minutes long. Basically, like, I just gave you the first and second act, but the majority of this movie, when this guy gets on board and wakes up, is like the crew members, and then one or two of them go missing. So they go search for these crew members. Then they find those crew members, and then two other crew members go missing. And that's what all this fucking movie is just they find some crew members, they lose some crew members. They find those crew members, they lose a couple more. Like, it's just, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, that's all this movie was. And then they throw a little bit of a creature feature in there. This movie too, it reminded me when I was watching it, it was kind of like a cross between not the John Carpenter Thing, but the original Thing, The Thing from Another World, and a movie called Harbinger Down. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. It actually takes place on a ship as well. And what Harbinger Down is back when they made that piece of shit Thing, the prequel, at the last minute, Universal crapped on these guys with all their practical effects and turned all the creatures CGI. So what these guys did is said, screw you, Universal, we're going to make our own movie. So they took all the practical creature effects from the Thing prequel and used it in Harbinger Down. It's not the greatest movie, but it's kind of cool that they just kind of wanted to put it in Universal's face. So anyways, but what I was getting at is it has a feel of The Thing from Another World, which is the original Thing, and then also Harbinger down, kind of put together with a female cast. For a rating, I would probably give this a 5. I mean, the only thing good, well, I guess there's two things good, me being a guy, it was first of all the crew. I'm telling you, man, like I said earlier, if Victoria's Secrets, you know how the WWE is now producing horror movies? It's almost like Victoria's Secret decided we want to start producing horror movies. You know what I mean? So let's get the best looking, smokingest fucking fish crew that we can get and throw them on this boat. Now, I will say, with all these smoking hot ladies on this boat, there was only one scene, and it was at the end, where one of them kind of wore a wife beater shirt. You know how you get these low budget movies and they try and keep the male audience enticed by having the female lead, you know, usually have big boobs and then put her in some sort of a wife beater. They didn't do that in here. Most of them were wearing sweaters and long sleeve shirts. Not till the very, very end, the doctor has like a grayish kind of a wife beater on, and it's not very revealing. So I respect that, do you know what I mean? Because the acting in this movie was good enough to carry it. It's unfortunate, though, that just the budget was the shits and the CGI was absolutely terrible. And unfortunately, the story really wasn't original. I mean, it was more of a let's go find our crewmates movie, and then for 10% of it, we'll throw like a creature feature in there. So it was kind of had lots of potential, but unfortunately, it just wasn't there for me. So I'd have to give this one a 5. I mean, if the acting was worse, then I would fail this movie big time. You know what I mean? But the women in this flick did a great job, and they really did carry the pathetic screenplay and direction that they had, obviously, in this movie. So anyways, if you've seen it, let me know what you think of this one. It's called Dead in the Water. It's pretty much what this movie is dead as soon as you hit the play button. As soon as you see that SyFy logo come up, it's like, fuck, just shut it off. Just take the loss, the rental loss, and just shut it off, seriously. So anyways, if you've seen it, let me know what you think. If you haven't, well, I just said don't go watch it, but I guess that's not really fair. So maybe give it a watch, and then you can see I'm not over-exaggerating, and then come back, and then we can discuss it in the comments, and you guys can let me know what you think. So anyways, Dead in the Water, and until next time, guys, stay scared.